Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back, putting a positive spin on The Exorcist Believer. It's the first positive spin of the new year, and the plan was to keep this specifically positive. Ultimately, that's what these positive spin videos are, or are meant to be. Positive reviews. But not long after Jason and I watched The Exorcist Believer together for the first time, Jason thought, we should do this for positive spin. It makes sense. This movie was hated before it was even officially released. Imagine that. How does that work? Oh, that's right, because people hated Halloween Ends, which has the same director, David Gordon Green. So that must mean they also hate The Exorcist Believer. In case you didn't know this, that's not how it works. Imagine someone watching Wes Craven's Deadly Blessing and hating that, and then telling themselves that must mean they also hate A Nightmare on Elm Street and the Scream franchise. Because, after all, every movie a director makes is the same, right? The funny thing is, The Exorcist Believer, which actually has a lower rating than Halloween Ends, at a 4.8 out of 10, is actually closer to Halloween 2018 than it is to Ends. That's the more comparable movie since they are both direct sequels to classic horror films. The Exorcist Believer is exactly that. It's a requel to The Exorcist. Like Halloween 2018, it skips all of the sequels that came before it. Going back to what I said though, Halloween Ends is arguably the most hated movie of 2022 for a lot of people. I don't agree, of course you know that, but a lot of horror fans really hated that. That one currently has an IMDb rating of 5.0 out of 10, while The Exorcist Believer is 0.2 points lower. So does that mean people hate this more? I guess so. Neither this nor Halloween Ends should be hated, but I've spoken enough about Halloween Ends. This is a positive spin on The Exorcist Believer. I just wanted to put that into perspective for you before I began. The Exorcist Believer was released in October of last year, and I posted a short review of it when it was first released. In that review, I mentioned how I had watched a lot of other reviews from well-known YouTube channels, you know, the big reviewers. By doing so, I found that they all just repeated each other. Like, word for word, as if they were reading from the same script. Much of what they said about The Exorcist Believer wasn't even accurate. It was like they were all rushing for the views and trying to get their videos out there as quickly as humanly possible, but didn't actually watch the movie, or at least pay attention to it. It was as if they just copied the homework of their classmates. Problem is, whoever completed the original assignments gave incorrect answers. So, in return, the entire class failed. Again, by that I mean things said in those early reviews were just flat out wrong. Art may be subjective, but there is still a factual aspect to film. There are things that do and do not happen over the course of one. I had noticed something similar in the past while watching reviews from others, when it seemed as if they hadn't even watched the movie they were talking about. But it was The Exorcist Believer that really put me over the edge. And that's why, instead of just sticking to my positives for this one, I am going on a bit of a rant. But hey, it is the first positive spin of the year, so I figured I'd come out swinging. There's just no accountability for these reviewers, and it genuinely makes me mad. Gone are the days of Siskel and Ebert. I mean, yes, we still have professional reviewers and film critics like that, but most reviews are now seen from YouTubers. If these are the people we're watching and listening to when it comes to movie criticism, shouldn't they be telling the truth? If I'm going to review a movie or film a video about one, I'm going to watch it from start to finish. And if for some reason I miss anything, which is a rare occurrence, I'll go back and watch it again. I don't like to share an opinion or information about something about which I'm unfamiliar. My point is, shouldn't these YouTube channels know what they're talking about? Now, it's completely different if they truly watch these films and just don't like them. That's fine. But that should be reflected in their comments. If they're saying things that literally are not true, I cannot take them seriously. And no one else should either. Not enjoying something is an opinion, but trashing it is an attack, especially when that so-called opinion is based on inaccuracies. It's even worse than that, though, and the part that really pisses me off is seeing people in the comment section of these videos where the reviewers bash The Exorcist Believer, or any other film for that matter, saying how much they love it when reviewers do that. Literally saying they love watching people spread negativity. That to me is a scary representation of the state of society. My son and I were talking about this in the car, and he liked the analogy I'm about to use. The people watching, or should I say, enjoying the videos of YouTubers trashing films are like the people who stand around and watch others get bullied. They don't step in to help or share their own positive opinion, but instead they just watch because they like the drama. It's sick. It really is. I don't know who's worse, the person bashing the film or the people who love watching the person bash the film. It's not just film either, but that just happens to be the topic of this video. I guess it's a good segue, because this is why Jason and I created Positive Spin to begin with, to contrast that negativity in the world. I am rambling on here, and I promise I will get to my positives in just a minute, but I want to say one more thing before that. Just because it seems as if the majority does not like something, such as The Exorcist Believer, doesn't mean you have to follow along. Not sure if you've noticed, but look around you. People in society are often wrong. Look at some of their opinions on other things, such as politics and culture. Ask 100 people on the street if they're perfect, and chances are 99 of them will say, of course not. Ask those same people if they could be wrong about movies or politics, and chances are they'll say, of course not. That speaks volumes. People know they're not perfect, yet they refuse to believe they could be wrong. Yes, I know, art is subjective, but subjectivity requires some objectivity. Okay, rant over for now. Let me get to my positives for The Exorcist Believer. I want to start by saying this is my favorite film in the Exorcist franchise. Yes, the original is a classic. I do love it, but I do feel it has some pacing issues, which The Exorcist Believer does not have. This movie is paced extremely well, so that's my first positive. With that great pacing comes more rewatchability, which I feel is lacking in the original. As I mentioned earlier, I like that this is a direct sequel, or requel, to The Exorcist, like Halloween 2018 is to Halloween. In my opinion, this is a fantastic follow-up for all of the following reasons. I love the opening in Haiti and all of the carnage that occurs there. The main character, Victor, is awesome. He's played by Leslie Odom Jr. I love the theme of choices in The Exorcist Believer, and I'll leave it at that as to not spoil too much. The relationship between Victor and his daughter is very authentic, and I like that her name is Angela. You know, like Angel in an Exorcist film. Clever. I love the Georgia setting. It was filmed on location there. That's a positive. I personally think David Gordon Green is a fantastic modern-day director. He co-wrote the film too, and it's a shame he received such unfair criticism, simply because the general audience can't grasp the intricacies of intelligently made sequels to horror classics. It's another case of, this is not exactly what I wanted, so it must be garbage. But the question is, what did you want? Could everyone ever really be satisfied? Clearly, the answer is no. It's not a problem with the movie. It's a problem with the viewers. There is also a theme of community and helping others in The Exorcist Believer, which is very significant to the plot. I love the reason why everything happens. It's not just a young girl randomly playing with a Ouija board this time. Angela and her friend Catherine do what they do with a distinct purpose, and it's powerful. Speaking of which, I love that it's two girls involved in this one. Obviously, in the original, we had Reagan. Well, now the threat is doubled, since this is a new Part 2, but Part 6 overall in regards to franchise frenzy. At one point, the movie becomes The Exorcist meets Prisoners, the 2013 film starring Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal that Jason and I covered during Controversial View back in November. As a huge fan of that movie, that's a positive. The suspense is palpable. As a parent, this film is horrifying. You can't help but to empathize with Victor and Catherine's parents. Their reactions to what is happening are realistic. There is a line Victor delivers. 2 words, actually. Connected. Close. Within the context of that scene, in just those 2 words, you feel his pain. The performance, the delivery, it's all so good. The movie is so engaging. As a viewer, you feel as if you're not only watching, but experiencing what the characters are. And that's a frightening thought, considering the subject matter. A small positive, but I want to mention it. There's a transition of a boy screaming to a car horn blaring, and it's very effective. Without giving too much away, the medical stuff is authentic and disturbing, as it would be in that situation. The flashing images and faces during the seance flashback are extremely creepy. It's so well done. The makeup effects are incredible here, and later on as well. As I already mentioned, the movie is super fast-paced. Even though it clocks in at around 1 hour and 51 minutes, it feels much shorter. With that being said, it does not feel rushed at all, which is a criticism a lot of reviewers had. I definitely disagree. I think both of the young girls give chilling performances. All of the things they begin experiencing are very scary. Now here's a big one, much talked about. I love that Ellen Burstyn reprised her role as Chris McNeil. For those of you not good with names, she was Reagan's mother in The Exorcist. As her character is reintroduced into this sequel, or requel, Tubular Bells, The Exorcist score, plays for the first time. And I have to admit, it has given me chills every time I've watched this movie. By the way, anyone saying she was wasted in this is either lying or just plain stupid. Her part in the film is imperative, and anyone who sees it a different way is, dare I say, blind. If you've seen the movie, you'll understand the pun. Seriously though, without Ellen Burstyn's return, half of this movie wouldn't have even happened. The only thing wasted must have been the people making these claims while watching the film. I think it's cool how often Reagan is mentioned, and even her character is important to the plot progression. I've reached the point now where saying too much more will spoil too much. I'll just say this. The twists are positives for me as well. Big positives. I used the word powerful earlier, and I'll use it again. The ending of The Exorcist Believer is powerful. In fact, the whole movie is. The last positives I need to mention are the monologue at the end, and then that final reveal. Chills once again. In preparation for this positive spin, Jason and I watched The Exorcist Believer for a second time together. And that doesn't include when I watched it alone. As much as I loved it during that first watch, I like it more and more each time. I truly feel like people are missing a lot in this one. It's very intelligent, and unfortunately, I think a lot of it goes over some people's heads. Everything needs to be spoon-fed for audiences nowadays, and it's sad. When this ended again, I said to Jason, I don't understand. Meaning, I don't get the hate. He very succinctly reminded me, there's nothing to understand. People had their minds made up before they even watched the movie. They hate it because they want to hate it. Because they expected to hate it. Because someone who they never personally met in a YouTube video told them they should hate it. I personally love The Exorcist Believer. But you don't have to agree. This is just my positive spin. Please be sure to check out Jason's as well. To which hated movie will we next give a positive spin? Check back soon to find out. But until then, have you seen The Exorcist Believer? If so, what do you think of it? Do you hate it? And if so, why? Comment below and let me know. Respectfully, please. And remember, physical media matters. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up and, be kind, subscribe.